budget and the monies for the treasurer. The next thing we have on our agenda is encouraging participation in the Clean Lakes collaboration. So this is something that came to us in August from Fred Monroe via Matt Simpson. We tossed it around a little bit in September, and we did pass it at committee. But there were some concerns with the language, and it looking like it was creating new or potentially creating new taxing districts in the Lake George area, which obviously is not something that we want to be doing. I guess I shouldn't say obviously. There were some concerns about that, and people were not supportive of that idea. So what we did, Matt Simpson and our county attorney met, and we also talked with some stakeholders, including Walt Lunder, who's here today from the LGA, and Eric Sy from the Fund for Lake George. I've also reached out to the Lake George Park Commission and talked to Dave Wick about amending the resolution. So what you should have in front of you are two resolutions. So not the one that has to do with supporting our waters, which we do want to do for Jean Merlino and Andrea Hogan, but the other one. Lexi, do they have copies of the new one?
Don't forget Matt Simpson. I don't worry. Too late.
I skipped your stuff. Okay. So we're talking about the Clean Lakes resolution. Okay, you should have it in your packet, and you'll know it's the right one because it's marked up with red changes. Okay, so this has been further revised since the version that you saw at the full board meeting last Friday. Okay, and to remind you, this, it's too bad Fred wasn't here. He couldn't make it again.
I thought he was coming with Eric Sy.
No, I don't see him either. So anyway, what is going on is that there is a collaboration between the 12 lakes who have been designated in the governor's program as potentially being impacted by harmful algal blooms. And so these 12 lake communities and their governmental organizations as well as non-governmental organizations are going to work together to work on best practices for watershed management principles. And a lot of them are going to be looking towards Lake George as an example of what can be done well, because we are a great example of how to work together interdisciplinarily. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I know this committee already passed this resolution, so I'm looking for a motion to pass the revised resolution that's updated to address some of those concerns.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Supervisor McDevitt. So bring it to the floor, Supervisor Hogan. Any discussion, Supervisor Simpson?
I had spoken to you about the one word, in the last resolve, where it says, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors or his designee be, and hereby is encouraging Warren County's participation. Encouraging Warren County's participation in.
Oh, is encouraging.
So it's authorized instead of, it's encouraging
okay.
Instead of.
Which line are you looking at?
The last resolve, last paragraph.
Okay, does everyone see that? So the very last paragraph will now read, if everyone's on board, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors or his designees, I'm going to change that to plural, be and hereby is encouraging Warren County's participation in the Clean Lakes collaboration along with state agencies, municipal agencies, and non-governmental organizations dedicated to protecting New York State's most vital and threatened asset. Do you want to explain your change, Supervisor?
I just think it's, it's one word change, and it, it's encouraging. I think it's more, I'm trying to think of the right word, not forceful, but it's more, you know,
Yeah, the other
than
thing is-
authorizing. Authorizing is just saying, yeah, you can do it if you want, but we're encouraging it.
The other thing is too, there isn't a clear MOU to actually be authorizing or entering into at this point. I think there may be down the road. So I think this is an okay change, an appropriate change at this point in time because we're still very early in the process. Morning.
Good morning. Hey, go ahead.
Supervisor Stroud, then Loeb.
Well, this is authorizing the chair of the Board of Supervisors to encourage participation.
Yeah, it probably doesn't need to be
And what exactly is the Clean Lakes collaboration?
right now, it's, like I said, it's still getting off the ground, and it's not going to be a new organization per se. It will be a collaboration of the communities that are impacted by the HABS program. Supervisor Simpson.
It's encouraging groups to look at the Lake George model that has been successful in its efforts, basically promoting that model that has worked, that collaboration between private and public entities that has been successful
I mean, look
in our
at
region.
Yeah.
There isn't
Supervisor Stroud.
I know, but that's one of the reasons why Lake George was included as one of the 12 lakes is because it presents itself as a model for the others. And
Right.
even though we didn't have a HAB problem per se, as the other 11 does, that's why we're included. So I'm just worried about the redundancy, and I just want to make sure because, you know, it sounds like a good thing, but it is people have called me, the county attorney among them, who are concerned that this district language and this other language, I mean, are we clear in that what we're supporting here?
yeah,
I'm just
Supervisor Simpson.
Yeah, there's all that language, the taxing districts and all that is taken out because it was the wrong, it wasn't the message.
No, but what I'm saying, Matt, is there's an organization called the Clean Lakes Organization.
No, there is no actual organization.
There is none.
No.
It's a concept,
Yes. Essentially, it's a concept at this
so
point.
it doesn't really exist. So the Clear Lakes collaboration doesn't really exist, yet we're supporting it.
We're encouraging the county's participation in a collaborative approach to addressing potential HABS problems. Look at the resolution that we passed yesterday.
Instead of listing some organization that sounds like it's an organization, why don't we just say what you just said, that we support that? Because it sounds like we're supporting some kind of an organization, which I haven't seen the mission statement or anything else of.
Supervisor Loeb.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Under the heading of wordsmithing, going back, eliminated authorize and added encouraging. That's not the proper grammar, but perhaps authorized and encouraged.
Well, I think the
Encouraging
county
doesn't make sense.
the county attorney's concern was that we aren't really authorizing anything. That's why she wanted to take that word out.
Encouraged.
Yeah.
Encouraging. Thank you.
Well, still didn't get my concerns addressed. Bill, do you know what the Clean Lakes collaboration is?
I do not, and I agree with that. If we do not have a solid program that we're supporting, then we should do as the Chair suggested, introduce this with the actual state of the situation.
I support Clean Lakes. I support collaboration. But these are capitalized. Clean Lakes collaboration, as if it's an entity. They aren't small letters, they're large letters.
Okay, John, would you like to have those lowered to lowercase letters?
Yes.
Okay, we can do that, I think, committee. Yes?
I see what you're saying. I agree with it.
Yeah.
So I see a couple of places. Yeah.
We'll change that. Yeah.
Well, that will be, we can't do that because that's in all caps. Right. Okay. I think at one place, this page 3, second paragraph, it says known as the Clean Lakes Collaboration. Do you want to delete that language?
Yeah,
Because it's not really anything? Okay.
Referring to an entity that we don't understand what the entity stands for, and I think that's...
Yeah, that's fair.
problematic.
Okay. Anything further?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Supervisor Loeb.
We eliminate that line, and then we go over to the last paragraph, which I think is that's what Supervisor...
What page are you on?
Page 4.
Yes.
Supervisor Stroud was concerned about making Clean Lakes Collaboration lowercase.
Yes?
Then the word "the" should be, I believe, participate in a Clean Lakes Collaboration.
Okay, good, yeah. Yes, Mr. Belden.
Supervisor Bramer, to my knowledge, Chautauqua County is the only county to adopt a similar resolution. I'm curious, as a casual observer here, if the resolution they adopted identified specific changes to town law, to promoting the establishment of watershed protection districts. By adopting this resolution, in being in support of that, is the county in support of
Right.
adopting those changes as well. And I guess the other point to make too is that, to my knowledge, Washington County and Essex County have not been brought into the fold on this. And given that this watershed extends into the other counties, to be in support of it, the entire watershed should be considering this.
Yeah, that's great.
Some food for thought.
With respect to the other language that Chautauqua County did pass, that was one of the reasons that we had our initial revisions prior to the last full board meeting, so that it was clearer that we were not adopting the MOU addendum. Because it does need some work, and Chautauqua went out in front and did that, but I think it does need, it needs some further investigation, and we are not adopting that language. And with Beth here, I could ask her for help with maybe pulling in Essex County and Washington County.
Yeah, actually, I had a meeting with the Washington County Administrator last week, and I brought this up and asked him, and he said he had no idea what I was talking about.
Okay.
So, we can, yeah, if you want to bring Essex to Washington, I can bring it up to them.
Great, thank you. Walter, you want to add anything?
No, I just think it's good to support the general idea of collaboration. I think we have that here in Lake George, so I think we're way ahead of where Chautauqua was. I think what they're trying to do is get to where we are, which is have state agencies, private entities, and local elected officials and municipalities all involved in protecting the water.
Yeah. Chris, could you speak to that resolution that we passed yesterday at planning related to the administration of the grant?
Well, that was just there's a Town of Queensbury grant that was awarded on behalf of the Lake George Watershed Coalition. The resolution yesterday was supporting the chairman to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the Town of Queensbury and partners, and for the county to provide in-kind match through the planning department. That's for the development of a comprehensive watershed management plan for Lake George, where our office will be providing administrative services, and the Regional Planning Board will be providing the professional services to develop the plan.
Right. I think that's a great example of how we're already collaborating, because we've got the county involved, like 5 different towns, the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board, so we're already doing this. Any further discussion on this, Supervisor McDevitt?
I live in Glens Falls, so I know there's no Lake George frontage, unfortunately, in front of my house. But Dennis, I mean, you're what do you think? You're Lake George. What do you think of this whole idea?
I don't. superfluous.
Thanks, Dennis.
You know, all the applications and funds that we get are closely guarded and documented and overseen by engineering companies, and we have the LGA and the Fund for Lake George. We don't need this.
What
I'd like to table it before I shoot it down.
I was going to add, from what I had seen from reviewing some minutes from Chautauqua County, it looked like the Fund for Lake George was behind the development of that original MOU. So, unfortunately, they're not able to be here today to speak to that. But
Yes, Supervisor
I can
Dickinson.
respond to that. They came up to the fund. A group of them came up, discussed where they were and what they were doing, and we offered to reach out with what we've done and send them some of the information we had, and to try to get them up to speed. And that's what this is. It's just like Walt said. They're behind the 8 ball trying to catch us. We don't need to do something they're doing. We've already done it.
Supervisor Loeb?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Dickinson brings up some good point about everything that's being done. 10, 12 years ago, very little was being done. And I think while this doesn't have any specifics as to exactly what we're going to do, what it does is put the full board in line with the spirit that when these issues are going to come up, why are we going to approve it? Because we already support the whole concept. So everything that Supervisor Dickinson is referring to has been done piecemeal, and good things, but I think this would be a good base for us to work from in the future, so that we're no longer arguing the merits of doing something positive. We're just arguing the merits of, well, is that the best thing to do?
Supervisor Shaw?
There's no rush on this. So, Supervisor Dickinson did put forward a motion to table it, and I would second that. And it would give us an opportunity to do a rewrite, go to lowercase, and do a little bit of research on this, and talk to our Fund for Lake George friends and see what they say about it. So, since there's no rush, I would support Supervisor Dickinson's motion to table.
Before I take a vote on that, I just want to put out there that I have talked to Eric Sy about this resolution, and he's in support, but we have a motion to table and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will table that one.
Good job.
Yeah.
Just want to point out.
All right, moving on to the environmental concerns. Second item is resolution supporting protection of all Warren County water resources. Would we like to table that as well? No. Supervisor Hogan, I brought this for you and Supervisor Merlino, so I hope you would not support tabling.
Supervisor Bramer,
Yes, Chris.
does the resolution that you distributed today, does that speak to the county as a whole? I didn't see any specific, with the exception of the language about the Lake George Park Commission. I didn't really see where the resolution you passed out today was specific to Lake George.
The one with the track changes on it, that is specific to Lake George, because it's a hab lake. This second one, which has been in the packet, is for all of Warren County, all of our water bodies and watersheds, including Lake George and including the Hudson River, Lake Luzerne, Friends Lake, Brant Lake, Scroon River. And actually, we have been working on that list to get grant funding for certain of our water bodies. But this resolution is with respect to every water body, that we would want to protect that and keep that as a priority. Yes, Supervisor Loeb.
Yes, I would make a motion to pass this resolution and point out that it's actually more to the point of what I said earlier as far as full board being in support of the concept of taking care of our waterways.
Yes, Supervisor Dickinson.
I'm going to second that, but I'm going to run my mouth, believe it or not. We have a tremendous track record of already doing this. You know, we've set aside funds, we've set aside Octex funds, we've set aside environmental funds, we've set up the environmental committee. We've done all of this. This is kind of a redundant statement, but it's not offensive, so.
Supervisor Morlino.
I understand what he's saying, but I think it's something that we should have it in writing that we're going to protect the waterways and rivers, water bodies, period.
Supervisor.
The expanded scope is important.
Okay. Anything further from the committee? Anyone out in the public? Okay, I'm going to call for the motion, and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that passes. Good, I'm so glad we are protecting our water bodies and watersheds. Okay.
Well, we were.
All right, we have a presentation today by a very special guest. Connor Gillis is joining us from the New York State Association of Realtors. He works with the Southern Adirondack Realtors Association, and we have today with us their CEO, Louisa Craig Sherman, and also their president, Kim Bullard. I think it's still back there. Yep. Thank you so much for coming.
Good morning. Thank you. Like Supervisor Bramer said, my name is Connor. Work with the New York State Association of Realtors, but also work with Southern Adirondack folks on local government affairs, government advocacy, and just helping them with anything going on that our state association can help them with. So what I'm here to share with you guys today, back in June, we worked with the National Association of Realtors and commissioned a smart growth survey of Warren County with two goals in mind. One, to provide information for our members, for the members of the Southern Adirondack Realtors, but also to provide this information to our local government folks, to give them an idea of how people feel about growth, how they feel about housing, where they're living, what they prioritize in their communities. We also added a couple questions at the end on short-term rentals and one on septic inspection issues. So the slide here is 43 slides. I'm not going to go through all of them because I know you guys have things to do today, but did want to highlight some of them. And of course, if anyone has questions as we go through, feel free to ask myself, Louisa, or Kim, and we'll give you our best answers. So, looking at the executive summary, quality of life in Warren County, 9 in 10 residents are very or somewhat satisfied with their quality of life here in the county. 57% of those folks are very satisfied with the quality of life. And we based a lot of this survey off of a 2017 smart growth poll that NAR did nationwide. And in that poll, only 37% of folks described themselves as very satisfied with their quality of life. So you see here in Warren County, vast majority of folks enjoy living here in Warren County. The next bullet I'll hit on, Warren County is limited in its walkability. It's not something that you folks don't know. 37% of people said that having a sidewalk on their street is an accurate representation of their neighborhood. Go down to the next slide. What people prioritize in their place to live. Short commute time. 54% of folks said that was important for them. 53% also said easy access to a highway. Slight majority of folks said that having sidewalks and places to walk was important to them, only 51%, which is interesting because if you look at the next bullet point there, despite folks' interest in walkability, the poll found that few people are willing to pay more money to live in a community, in a walkable community, which is an interesting juxtaposition of those two things. 42% of folks rank walkability as a 4 or 5 on a 5-point importance scale. And then 26% say that they would be willing to pay a little bit more to live in that community. So we'll go to the next slide here. So community choices and trade-offs. So county residents favor a larger single-family home where more driving is required. Residents prefer neighborhoods where driving is required rather than mixed-use walkable communities. They show a small preference for living in houses-only driving-required neighborhoods, 56%, versus a walkable neighborhood with short shops and restaurants nearby. The divide is less when a big home and larger lot means a longer commute. So again, folks here prioritize shorter commutes. A third of residents prefer the walkable neighborhood if it means living in an attached home, like a townhouse or a condominium, or living in a smaller home but with no mention of a shorter commute. Higher income residents and families with kids at home are mostly drawn to larger homes. Lower income residents prefer smaller homes with walkability. And just the last point here, majority of Warren County residents live in single family homes with large yards, 22% with small yards, and just 17% live in attached homes, apartments, townhouses, or condominiums. So we'll go to the next one. So again, I mentioned we added a couple questions at the end of the survey regarding short-term rentals and septic inspections. We wanted to gauge the thoughts of members of the community on how they feel about these two issues. They're important for our membership, but I think they can also inform you guys as you move forward and make policy, whether it's in your town, your locality, or here at the county level. So 6 in 10 folks in Warren County support short-term rentals, and most residents are in favor of allowing property owners to rent out their properties for short-term stays. 27% oppose the idea, 13% are unsure. We'll go into this a little more in depth in a couple slides, but 3/4 of residents are at least familiar with short-term rentals. And obviously, it makes sense that the more you're familiar with short-term rentals, the more likely you are to support them. Residents are in favor of having short-term rentals pay lodging taxes. 60% of residents support requiring short-term rentals to pay the same as local hotel lodging taxes. I think the county had entered into agreement with Airbnb, or was working on entering an agreement with Airbnb to collect those taxes. When it comes to limiting the number of days and the number of time you can spend in your home, residents are split. About half support limiting density of short-term rentals in an area, or limiting the number of nights per year. Small majorities oppose minimum length of stay, whether it's 3 nights or 5. So several municipalities who are looking at short-term rentals will sometimes include limit to the number of days that you can offer your home. So we found that in small instances, folks are opposed to requiring length of stays. In terms of septic inspections, I know 2 municipalities, I believe in Warren County, have laws in the books regarding septic inspections, Queensbury and Bolton. I think at one time, this committee was looking at maybe a countywide septic inspection law, or was discussing it or having discussions on it. So there's strong support within the county for the requirement of septic inspections when selling a home. 80% of folks support a septic inspection upon the sale of a home or property. Most of those, 60% strongly support the proposal, and even those with septic tanks who would be directly affected by any sort of law, 78% are in support, with 55% strongly in support of those laws. When folks are informed and told that, it's common sense, when they're told that these laws are going to be in place to reduce pollution in local lakes and rivers, 2/3 of residents say they're much more likely to support any proposal when that set of facts is put before them, and it makes sense, obviously, when they hear that the goal is to limit pollution or seepage into the ground or local bodies of water. 32% say that they are less likely to support it when they are when they hear that septic system repairs range from a few $1,000s to $10,000. So even the vast majority of folks, when they're told that fixing your septic tank could cost you money, are still in favor of laws like this. So that's just a quick little executive summary. I'm going to skip ahead a few slides, and again, like I said, if anyone has any questions as we go through this, please feel free to stop us. Which one do I? Yeah.
Go ahead.
How is the survey distributed, and how did you decide who was going to pay?
So I'll go back to the. So it was 400 respondents, 400 adults 18 or older who indicated their primary residence was in Warren County. We conducted the survey from June 13th to June 16th. 32% of the respondents were reached on a cell phone, 25 on a VoIP phone, 43% on landlines. So the sample was drawn from a third-party vendor voter file. The overall margin of error is 4.9%. So that's the sample size. Yes.
What do you consider north?
I don't know how they decided it. American Strategies. I can find out for you. I don't know how they.
I'm just curious because I know we spent a lot of money on sidewalks in my community, and we are a walkable community, so I consider myself north.
Yeah.
But up on your survey, and I do agree that everybody wants bike lanes, but nobody wants to pay for them.
Sure.
So
Sure.
That they're holding true there.
Right.
But I just wonder why you consider north, because we just got a grant to redo River Street, and that's $1 million, and we've done Hudson Street, Main Street, we've done, Warrensburg is a walkable community, and I just wonder what you consider north.
I don't know. I can find out for you. What the geographical distribution was. But did want to highlight this slide. We talked about it in the executive summary. But in terms of what the citizens in this county prioritize when deciding where to live, so again, 54% being within a short commute to work, 53% easy access to the highway, 51% slight majority having sidewalks, places to take walks. Only 42% said that their priorities were being within an easy walk to other places. And then you get having public transportation nearby. Only 31% of folks prioritize that. Bike lanes and bike paths, only 31%, and then 29% separated bike paths or trails, which is interesting. I mean, our organization met with the Warren County Biking Coalition, and it's incredible what they're doing to promote bicycling and cycling in the county. So I think as they continue to get their message out, that number I'm sure will go up. So I'm going to skip ahead to the short-term rental and the septic inspection, get a little more in-depth in that, and then of course, if there are any questions, let us know. So we talked about it before. 74% of residents are totally familiar with short-term rentals, and on the right you'll see the breakdown of folks who are very familiar, and on the left, people who are somewhat unfamiliar with them. Again, as your familiarity increases, so does your support of short-term rentals. 60% of folks, again, favor allowing property owners to rent their properties for short-term rentals. Only somewhat totally oppose it. Again, 13% are either on the fence or just don't know. And again, this is we talked about.
Yes, Supervisor Dickinson.
Oh, sorry.
Connor, we just did short-term rental law in Lake George. We had several public hearings. We had 2 people come. That was a lot.
Yeah. So I think I think you're right. I think it's our charge as an organization to inform as many people as we can about these things. We have a lot of, I was going to talk about, we have a lot of programs and grants where we can, get the word out on issues that are happening in the community. Working with the deputy supervisor in the town of Bolton to publicize their recent septic inspection law and get that message out to the public. So we have tools at our disposal to help you guys get the word out. And it's part of the reason that we wanted to come and talk with you, is let you know that there are some programs and grants and things that we can tap into to inform the public in your communities on things that are happening. But I agree with you. I think the more education and information we can get out to the public, the better. And that's part of my role with NYSAR, to help this board engage with local governments and get more information out to the public. So anything that we can do in that regard, we'll certainly
Supervisor
help you
Lehman?
guys with.
Just a quick question. Do you have it broken down to what towns, how many people?
I have the questions that went out, and I can send that to you guys with the breakdown of the answers and stuff. So I can get that information to Supervisor Bramer. You want
Yep.
to send that out to the committee?
I'll get it out, yep.
I can do that. So again, like you mentioned, familiarity with short-term rentals increases obviously your support of it. And then your strongest support, your college-educated folks under 50 to 79%, your income, your age, whether you have kids at home. And again, I'll send the actual questions in the breakdown, so this will look, you'll get a sense of, how it broke down. This is just a PowerPoint that they put together, which kind of puts this into a nice flashy presentation, but I'll make sure that you get that information to you guys. A third of residents have utilized Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, which is not uncommon. And then in terms of what folks would support in terms of regulations, and I know several municipalities have regulations on the books, so for those who don't, this may be of interest to you guys. Requiring short-term rentals to pay the same local hotel and lodging taxes, 61% support that. Limiting the number of properties in neighborhoods, 52%. Then you start to get dip below the 50% level. So limit to the number of nights each year. Only 49% of folks support that. And then you have your minimum stay requirements, which is 43 and 37% respectively, would not support or do support proposals. So 52 and 57% do not support minimum stay requirements. And this is just another breakdown of the numbers for the short-term rentals. And then we asked a few questions on septic inspection proposals. So again, almost 70% of folks in Warren County use septic systems, according to the responses by those who we talked to. 59% strongly favor regulations. A total number of 80%. When you factor in somewhat favor, you have 80% of folks who support septic inspection laws in the books. You'll look, this is broken down again. We'll get the information on the geographical split on this. Again, 80%, 73% of folks in Glens Falls support septic inspection, which we believe that they don't have to. They don't have sewer. They used to do it. So yes, you don't have septic. I'm sorry. So they would obviously not have to pay for any repairs or anything like that. So they're fine with it. 66% of folks, well, 81% in the south of Warren County. 80% of folks in Queensbury support septic inspection laws, and Queensbury recently passed a local law. Again, 70% of folks who don't have a septic system are all in favor of it, because again, wouldn't have to pay for the repairs. But even 55% of folks who have a septic system strongly support these types of laws. So if you're looking to do that countywide or in your communities, there's broad support for it. And then we asked folks, we just sort of asked them a couple more questions on septic inspection. So, again, if you inform the public that the goal of any law is to, repair or reduce pollution leaking into local rivers and lakes, 84% of folks are supportive of that. Don't know who the 16% who wouldn't be supportive of that would be, but 84%, support that. 73% of folks support all homes in municipalities having to be required to have septic inspection. 61% of folks support only homes in waterfront residential districts having to, have their septic systems inspected. 59% of folks, upon hearing that the town of Queensbury recently passed a local law, would be supportive of, a countywide septic inspection. And 48% of folks, when presented with, a question or a statement saying repairs could range from $2,000 to $10,000, are still supportive of any proposal. So that's all I wanted to get
Supervisor
to.
McDevitt?
Yes, I'm one of those Glens Falls residents that skewed that poll in that direction. I think normally if you don't have to pay for something, it probably makes it go down a little bit easier. But as I was telling Connor before the meeting started, I attended Supervisor Conover's training session for people that are in the business of inspecting septic systems, and it was a great session. Okay, but we have two communities here that have implemented a local law, and I'd like to maybe get a perspective from those two in terms of how's it going. Are things? I know it's not a politically sensitive issue, Dennis, so I just want to throw that out there. But
Supervisor Dickinson?
Peter.
But the question is, should we indeed? That's the $64,000. Excuse me, Dennis. Before should we have a countywide law? I guess that's at the end of the day.
Our septic initiative concentrates on the lakeshore portion of our community. Doesn't apply to the off-lake. Our primary zone is 500 feet from the lake or from the shore to Bolton Road. Our septic initiative we started 4 years ago is moving extremely slowly, but we have finally reached the point where we are actually replacing septic systems. We have a matching fund incentive program for people who are interested. We've had a number of people step up and say they're not interested in the matching fund, they just want to upgrade their septic. I looked at one yesterday. So it's going really well. We've had no serious pushback at all.
So you would not be in favor of a countywide law? You feel it's maybe not necessary. I'm just trying to get a sense of,
County law to do what? Just inspect them?
Yeah, so, upon sale of a property, that there would be defined rules and regulations.
Transfer law is a little different.
Supervisor?
As an engineer, you often hired to go to somebody's house where they have a private septic system, write an engineering report for pending sale. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but it's not much more than a drive-by and look out the window. Generally what you do is you go and you assess the property, try to determine where the septic system is, walk around the area where the septic system is and see if it's leaking. End the conversation. What we're talking about here is to officially log what you have and where it is. And from an engineering standpoint, it's a lot different than just doing a visual inspection.
Supervisor Garrity?
I have a question for the real.
I know.
When a house changes hands, are they required to get an inspection on septics? I mean, I've seen it happen least in our community, of course, we have to follow DOH. You know, but is that required as a point of sale, or is it not built in?
Only in the communities that have the lawn books.
Okay, so
Otherwise, no.
No, okay. Because I know we all have to follow DOH regulations now, which are pretty, when somebody has to have it filled, there's already regulations. I think every town has to follow that and have an engineer stamp plans when they replace them. So, I mean, I was just curious if it's point of sale and they had to have it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you say that again? It's not required, right. Okay, Supervisor Lowe?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to give my input into what I think is a correction of statement that the city and anyone else who has a sewer doesn't have to pay. We have to pay. We pay every month or every year, about $700
Quarterly.
to prevent the sewage from going into the river. So we're protecting the Hudson River. We're looking at ways to protect the waterways. And also, with response to the Association of Realtors, this issue of, I get free sewage disposal because I have a septic tank. It's a big problem we have in deciding where you're going to live, in Glens Falls. Well, I live in Queensbury because I don't have to pay for sewage disposal. It just goes in the ground, and who cares where it goes? That's a big problem as far as where people buy. But Glens Falls people pay. We pay to protect the Hudson River, and so I think it's fair to say we should pay. Other people should pay to protect their waterways. That's seeping into the lake, just as we would be pouring it into the river.
I'll take one more comment, and then we're going to move on, but I do think that this is something that we should bring to committee so we can have a further discussion, more robust discussion about it. But before we move on, Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, I mean, an individual can upgrade to make their system compliant at any time, right? But the law in Baltimore and Queensbury, what it says is no later than at the time of property transfer, you must make your system compliant. So, I think it was feeling on our community's part that, well, if you're opposed to that, then you're opposed to compliant systems. Just the logic trail on that. So, the way to think about that law is that no later than at the time of property. The question was asked, you know, how's it working so far? Our law is much younger than Queensbury's, but it's working very well, and a lot of the issues that are being identified are actually pretty minor, relatively minor kinds of things, but nevertheless important. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the inspection has to be no later than 3 years old. It can't be something was looked at 30 years ago and so forth. And the only other comment I would make is, in terms of this presentation, is that there's a direct connection also between your second to last bullet and your last bullet. There's a very direct connection between short-term rentals and on-site waste disposal. Because the short-term rental deals with occupancy of the structure and the adequacy of the septic system. So there's actually there's a connection between those two. Because so many of our short-term rentals are not on public systems.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Connor and Kim and Louisa, for coming. We really appreciate having some outside insight. And I know you guys are having a forum on Thursday, right?
Our trade show.
The trade show.
Yep.
At SUNY Adirondack, the Northwest Bay Conference Center, from 4 to 7. And starting at 4:30, we will have a series of 3 different forums on short-term rental, Tenant Landlord Protection Act, that we need to speak on, and also on septic inspection upon transfer. All welcome to attend. Those will be facilitated by local professionals in the field.
Great, thank you very
And all
much.
this information is on the Southern Adirondack website. So if you-
Yeah, this presentation on your cover page there, we have a page on our website /Park that has this presentation. Feel free to share that. And then there's a lot of other information throughout our
But Connor, you're going to send me the backup details? Okay, great, thank you. All right, awesome, thank you. Okay, Lexi, you have 5 minutes. Yeah, oh, okay, sorry guys. So the first thing for administrative review is Lexi's budget, which has been in your packet. I don't think we need to go over it line by line. If you have any questions, please take a look and ask. Otherwise, we're going to move on. We have some information to discuss with respect to the properties that are in the foreclosure, or were. Okay, Lexi, can you walk us through that list? So pull out your, it's a 2-page sheet with the list of properties from the foreclosure.
There's further extensions granted up at the top of the page. So after we had our last chance meeting, on the second page there are the people that did attend, or properties went through our last chance meeting, and on the second page it starts with Elizabeth Monzi Estate. That one was paid, and the next two, William Zabo, he was waiting on a decision from Social Security Administration, and I do have a copy of his decision, which is fully favorable. So it's just a matter of waiting for Social Security to process through his retro, and then he will be getting monthly payments after that. So we've given him further extension on his property because we really don't want to see him lose his home, and he will be getting a settlement from Social Security.
Which one is that?
It was on the second page. It's Queensberry parcel 303.5-1-7. The second one on the second. Oh, you're in the book. Dennis, you're in the book, right?
Yeah.
Go to this page, yeah. William Zabel did make a request at the last chance meeting, and we did grant him that until the end of, basically end of September. No, it was September. But Lexi has been talking with his attorney, and we got a copy of this, so we feel comfortable that he will have the money coming, and I believe that we are going to require him to sign an agreement saying that he will pay off our debt, the debt to the county, from the proceeds that he receives through the Social Security Administration.
And I have spoke to him in regard to that, and he's fully comfortable with signing.
So we just need something out of the county attorney's office?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then,
if anyone has any questions or objections, please raise them now.
right, we wanted to provide this list to you because these were extensions that the treasurer's office has granted outside of the last chance. We had given 2 years ago, I believe, the authority to the treasurer to be able to grant these extensions to other people till the end of August.
Yeah.
However, these have gone beyond that. I've been in close contact with Claudia and Mike and myself. We've all discussed these. Some of them we've pulled Brian in on, but we wanted to make you guys aware that we did give some other people extensions to be able to come in and pay to prevent them from losing their properties. So that is what.
And all of these on the first page have paid. They have paid in full, or there's 2 that entered an installment agreement down towards the middle, except for this first one at the top. Oh, and on the second page, the last one, she has not paid either, and we have not given her an extension. We thought we would bring that to committee today because she does have...
I have a copy of a real estate purchase and sale agreement. So she was hoping that she did come to the last chance meeting and talk to us, and I actually have on there September 20th. I think she actually had until September 30th. I apologize. But she has come forward. She came to the last chance meeting and she stayed in contact with me. She went home, started packing things in her house and moving them to her shed so she could get it listed for sale. So she, she would like to, I think, maybe recoup some funds to be able to go into an apartment and,
go on with her life instead of losing her home completely to a foreclosure for taxes. So, asking for everybody's consensus. Supervisor Dickinson, do you have a comment on this one? Or do you want to make a general comment?
Just in general, I think if she's making the effort, I'd like to give her the time to do that.
Okay, so if we give her a further extension to get the sale completed, you know, and if the sale falls through, it would be until next year, but I think that's fine with the committee. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll give her...
I'll second that.
Thank you. I don't think we need a motion.
Okay.
Do we? Yeah. So that's that one, and the other one who has not been able to pay is the Cynthia Vander Minden at the top of the first page. And unlike the one we just spoke about, she does not have a contract in place. There's no other arrangements.
Oh, no, scratch
Okay.
No question.
So, I don't know what to tell you. We've worked, I know Lexi's reached out to her a ton, but at this point, she's in the foreclosure, her property's in the foreclosure, and we don't have any plan for it to come out. Do you have anything further, Treasurer Swan?
No. The one you were just talking about, Lexi, and I've met with the woman. Lexi's had a lot of contact with her over, correct me if I'm wrong, Lexi, 3 years?
Yes, because she was in our foreclosure prior, and she went into an installment agreement last year and has really struggled with that.
Just don't, we had, you know, this is one of those, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't. I feel we had made many suggestions about how she could alleviate these problems, and to no avail.
I've been speaking with her since the spring because of her being in a defaulted installment agreement. I've had numerous conversations with her, and I feel like it's more me reaching out to her than her trying to communicate with me.
And you also reached out on her behalf to our Commissioner of Social Services, and they were looking, that was for her, right?
That was not her, that was...
Sorry. Didn't you include her on the list?
No, because she wasn't part of the last chance.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, Lexi has been doing a lot of work and has reached out to this woman in particular for sure. What? Yeah. Yes, Supervisor Molina.
See, I brought this up to you a couple of times. We got that one house in Town Lake Luzerne, owned property. It's 8 years now, no taxes, nothing.
I think they keep paying their taxes.
They are paying.
I'm not sure which particular one.
That's the one right across off River.
I thought you said that was the one where they were letting it grow up around it and disrepair, but I believe their taxes are current. It hasn't been in our foreclosure. So if not, it's either that or they're in bankruptcy.
Paying taxes because he's in bankruptcy?
If he's in bankruptcy, then he wouldn't be paying taxes, and that would keep it out of the foreclosure.
How long does that keep up with bankruptcy?
That could go on forever.
It can be dragged out for quite a while.
The house is falling down around it. We keep boarding it up.
Dean, after the meeting, I will get a name from you, and I can stop at the treasurer's office and double check, and I'll let you know.
No, I don't think he's paying the taxes.
Yeah, but I can find out if he's in bankruptcy or if the taxes are outstanding.
That's the most only house that I get a lot of complaints in town.
Right.
Right down Main Street, right across from Up River Cafe. And the owner of that place says, what are you going to do something about that? All right, thanks.
All right, anything further to come before the committee? Yes, Chris?
Super quick.
Yeah.
Just a reminder that the first meeting of the Climate Smart Task Force is going to be on the 15th of this month, 10 to noon in this room. Public meeting. Obviously, we'll want to have some opportunity for the committee to work, but the public or other supervisors want to attend. Voice any concerns or whatever, feel free. And then also, working with IT, we've created a Climate Smart webpage on the county website. So just warrencountyny.gov/climate. It's pretty basic right now, but as we get chugging along here, we'll hope to have more information available on it.
Great, thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to hear that the public will be able to access some of this information through our web page.
That's all.
Great, thank you.
I did have one other thing. I wanted to let you know that I will be leaving tomorrow to go to my conference, to my fall directors conference
for my continuing ed credits that are required every year for my position. Good. Get lots of knowledge. I'll take a motion to adjourn, please. Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor Simpson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Too bad. All right.